Following Jesus isn't really like going to elementary school or grade school. Learning the way of Jesus isn't simply a matter of head knowledge, and even reading stories about Jesus in the Gospels, it's not like memorizing facts like you had to memorize your state capitals or the periodic table of elements in some classroom at some point in the past. Following Jesus is about learning how to do what Jesus does, because he will empower us to then move forward and do what Jesus does in the world around us. It's not just learning facts about what Jesus did, it's letting Jesus become a model for how we then are sent out into the world. Recognizing that difference and how following Jesus is so different from memorizing facts for a test, like so much of our schooling is, that makes the difference to understand the whole lifetime of discipleship. And that also makes sense of an important story we're going to be hearing this coming Sunday from Mark's Gospel. In the early chapters of Mark, we see Jesus gathering disciples around him. And at first, they basically watch what Jesus does. They listen to him teach. They see him as he interacts with people. And they participate, but mostly as students and observers. They become people who are around the table when Jesus is at a dinner party at the notorious tax collector's house. Or they're watching in awe as Jesus heals somebody or raises someone from the dead, or they're there in the background listening to what Jesus has to say when he teaches or gives a parable about what the reign of God is like. But there comes a point then, right about Mark chapter 6, where Jesus now turns to his gathered community of disciples and basically says, I've been training you not just to know what I know, but to do what I do. And now I'm sending you out to do the very same kinds of things you've seen me do. So Jesus equips his disciples and sends them out to the towns he's planning on visiting, and they're equipped and empowered by Jesus to do what he does. The very same kinds of things. They're going to cast out evil spirits. They will teach and announce the coming of the reign of God. They'll heal people, and they'll do it in the same vulnerable way that Jesus has done it. In other words, they will risk the possibility of rejection. Jesus prepares his disciples. He says, when you go to another town, if they receive you, great, fantastic. Stay at somebody's house, receive the food they put in front of you. If they offer you shelter or room and board for the night, as long as you're there, do good in that place and then move on to the next town. But if they reject you, you don't have to get a grudge. You don't have to be angry or mean or spiteful. You don't curse them or call down fire from heaven. You don't have to be mad or angry or think you have to take their village or their town by force. No, you walk away and move to the next place. Your willingness to bear even being rejected, your willingness to offer love and to risk that people will say no to it, that's also part of your witness. That's part of what the reign of God looks like. God doesn't come in as this conquering army that's looking to destroy or devastate anybody who says no. God risks being rejected. God's own love, God's kind of reign over the world is vulnerable, and Jesus has been modeling that all along. Now, for us, 2,000 years later, we can hear a story like this, and the temptation is to go, I know the facts about what this story is about. This is about Jesus sending those disciples a long time ago out into the world to do what he did. Now I've learned it, and I'm done. And it's like memorizing state capitals all over again. But the point of a story like this isn't to say a long time ago Jesus equipped people and sent them out. The point of a story like this is to say this is what Jesus is always doing. And if he is indeed alive and on the loose and among us, then Jesus is continually, consistently gathering us and sending us. The reason we keep gathering on Sunday mornings, the reason we gather to study, the reason we gather in Bible study, or the reason we join together in service projects isn't just to get more head knowledge so that we can go to heaven with full brains. We learn and get our marching orders, so to speak. We get a clarity of our purpose. And the more we are recentered on, oh, this is how Jesus operates in the world. This is what Jesus does when he encounters somebody who's hurting. This is how Jesus speaks or teaches or goes somewhere new. Then we can follow that pattern because he's sending us out into the world. Jesus has gathered us exactly for that reason. So often, we treat the Christian faith like it's a matter of learning the right head knowledge because we're afraid of some future post-mortem test. Did I believe the correct facts about Jesus? Did I believe strongly enough? Do I understand the right interpretation of Bible verses? And if I do that well enough, then someday I'll get into heaven. If that's not pop Christianity, I'll eat my hat. But that's not how Jesus sees things. It's never just been about head knowledge for some future test. It's about on-the-job training right now for how we are sent out to be reflections of the presence of Jesus, for us to be embodiments of God's reign right where we are. That's the conversation we're having this coming Sunday, and we invite you to be a part of it. But be prepared if you come. If you join us, if you hear those words of Jesus, be prepared for the word of Jesus not just to stay in your head and not even just to reside emotionally in our hearts, but to send us out with our hands, with our feet, not just to know what Jesus knows, but to do what Jesus does for the sake of the world that Jesus loves. See you Sunday.